All right, I've just got butter and sugar, 12 tablespoons of butter and a cup of sugar whipped together to a beautiful, light and fluffy mixture, which is how you start this cake. It's a Greek yogurt cake, and it is rich and moist, and in the classification of those kinds of desserts that aren't chocolate, pretty darn good. So you're gonna wanna see how to make this. So the butter and sugar is all creamed together, and now I'll get the dry ingredients going, which is 2 cups of flour is how you start this thing off. And that's why I like a big wide thing like this, just to scoop and level. So we have 2 cups of all-purpose flour, and we get that mixed up with some things that take that buttery mixture and poof it up. That would be the leavener. So I have 2 teaspoons of baking powder. And the thing is, when you have something like yogurt that's quite acidic, then you really don't need as much leavener because the baking soda is just 1/2 teaspoon. That's the thing in a cake. It's balancing the density and the lightness to get to the place you want to be. That's the zing in the formula. 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And then I'm just going to grab a whisk and whisk this together. And I have all my dry ingredients prepared. Now I have 3 eggs that I have brought to room temperature, which is a nice thing to do if you can. If you have the time when you're baking, it makes a difference. And I'm gonna add one after the other, but I'm not gonna just put it right in there because I really don't want, if I happen to have not cracked so great, then what I'm gonna end up doing is getting the shell in there. So it's a nice idea to just go into a separate little bowl first. So I have 3 eggs. Get that in there. And then when you have something that's got a lovely light, think of like a white cake kind of feel, you really, really, really love to have vanilla in there. So I'm putting about a teaspoon of vanilla in. Real vanilla, no imitation stuff for this one. Then I'm just gonna pull it up a little bit, mix it around, and just take down the sides a tiny bit here before we get moving with the rest of the cake. I would say the real heart and soul of this cake. Now, I have preheated my oven to 350 degrees. Important thing to do when you're gonna get baking. And so I have a little more I'm gonna whip up here. Great, now I'm gonna just get some yogurt from the fridge. And what other kind of yogurt but Greek yogurt do I have for this? That nice, thick yogurt, which makes such a beautiful texture. And I'm just gonna mix it with the honey. So I have about a cup of yogurt. I'm such an eyeballer when it comes to cooking, and when I'm baking, I have to remind myself that exact quantities do matter. So I just have 1 cup here, nice, beautiful, thick yogurt, and then a 1/4 cup of honey. And again, I've said this before, but honey not only sweetens, it just gives the most beautiful flavor. And along the lines of the Greek desserts that you'll see, there's a lot of nuts and honey and fruits and fig and all that kind of thing. So if that's the kind of dessert you love, this is what we're making here. Only we're making it in kind of a very familiar cake. And it is so moist that this is the kind of cake you can make, the day before and don't worry that you're gonna have a dried out cake. So, like so many times that you make a cake, you have all your elements ready like this. So I have my dry ingredients, what we call your dry ingredients. We have the wet ingredients, and we have our butter and sugar creamed. So you get this all done in advance. Do not start throwing stuff together at the last minute. When it comes to baking, I like to get all my things out, and then as I use it, put it aside. So I have my dry, my wet, and my creamed butter, sugar, and the 3 eggs. And then what you do, which is a very, very common technique, is you start with your dry ingredients going in there, and you alternate with your wet. And it's kind of like dry first and dry last. Just remember that. So we'll get this in there. I'll do it in maybe 2 or 3 batches. And then make sure that you don't have it on too high or you're gonna have a flour snowstorm on your hands. The rest of the wet ingredients here. And the rest of the dry. Oh, I can already see this is a really lovely batter. All right, I'm gonna just take 1 second here and get the rest of the wet ingredients out because I have, I don't know, a good tablespoon or so and that will make a difference. All right. I'm gonna give it a quick whir and then get it off. I never met a paddle I didn't instantly want to start licking like a little girl, and this is no exception. All right, I'll take a little bit of it off, but for the most part, I'm gonna leave on enough to have a little afternoon snack. So I'll leave that there. And then I didn't really go back in there because I feel like I've got a nice enough batter here. If I just get it all mixed up, make sure it's all mixed. It is. Now I have a 9x3" springform pan, and meaning that it has a little bit of a hinge here. I buttered it lightly and then floured it. And then all you have to do is just get your batter in here, smooth it out. It's going into the oven at 350 degrees for 35. Oh yeah, that's what it's supposed to look like. And look at how big, how beautifully it's risen. That's all that leavener in there. It smells great. So we're just gonna put it over here and let it cool.